In some cases, I can see that like covertly where you can curse God in this day and age where you feel like you have to work to provide.
Right.
And you feel like, oh, this guy, why am I a woman? Why am I have to depend on somebody? I'm independent. So that's like covertly saying you despise the role of being a woman and being taken care of. So you despise that role. And then you also have a new level of disrespect for your spouse because he's supposed to be the one who's concerned about the bills. But if you're working OT and if you're working real hard to meet the bills and he's relaxing and he won't get a job and he won't take fiscal responsibility, or he won't take emotional responsibility, or he won't take parental responsibility because little Johnny is acting a fool and in them streets and you have to go look for him. It hurts your heart because our heart is tender. The Bible says we're the weaker vessel. So if I have to discipline my teenage son or my daughter at a certain age, it becomes more stress on me and where you would have failed to do your job. So now I'm resentful for the fact that you won't do your job.
That's right. And it's amazing how in society, even in our homes and economic situation, because now, we created a society where you have to have two-party work.
We created that.
We created a society. Man, God didn't do that.
Right.
We created that society. Human beings have created that society.
Right.
And because we have created that society, yes, women have to work. But here's the challenge. While more women want to be CEOs, there are those same women that want to have children. And wanting that, and who's gonna take care of those children? And on top of that, being a CEO, that's gonna take a lot of your time. That's 80 hours plus working a week. And how do you properly have children and raise your children, and then the stress of being the CEO? And we think that that's not going to affect the development of your child in your womb.
Right. And you're willing to pay someone to watch your children.
And there's
some have to. I know that.
Just the dynamics, and we're not saying the ones that don't that have to. What we're saying is
those who
choose to, and why not? That's where the importance of having a father there to teach his daughters that the man that you should get in your life should be the man that I emulate. That the man that I am should be the man that you. Now, if that's only if your father is
values and characters,
values and character, and he's a godly man, a man that have good principles, a man that has good principles. He values family. A man that values family, he's going to protect his wife. He's going to nurture. He's going to cultivate his wife. He's going to make it possible where his wife does not have to really sweat bringing in more money in order to support the general whole. You know what I mean? And so we have created this society, but God's values are right. God's idea of what the man or the father is supposed to be is correct. In spite of what the world has redefined this role, God's idea of the role of the father is right. And if we follow that process, we'll be successful. Our children will be successful. Our wives will be successful. I can go back to I made a statement in our last Hope Wednesday. We were talking about why does the father walk his daughter down the aisle and hands it to another man? Because everything that the father was to his daughter, source, sustainer, protector, teacher, cultivator. Cultivator, that word cultivate, even though we hear that word cult, it just means I create an environment for them to thrive. So I create a culture. I create an environment for her to thrive, to flourish. So,
and that's important.
And so a father is taking his daughter, and technically he's giving his daughter to another father. So he's saying, I need you to, whatever I have created, I need you to carry that and build on that.
Because she is responsible to be fruitful and multiply.
And
if the soil is not good, in that sense, if we are the seed and you create the soil, then the children become the fruit of the soil.
Absolutely.
And sometimes what happens is the soil is so disturbed and so unhealthy that even though the seed drops in there, then the mom produces dysfunction. She doesn't enjoy her pregnancy. She doesn't enjoy the birth. She doesn't enjoy the afterbirth. She doesn't enjoy raising the children. She doesn't enjoy being a mother. She doesn't enjoy keeping a home. She doesn't enjoy that because you have to check the soil.
That's right.
What type of soil has the Father created? I think the biggest thing that the job that the Father has is to be responsible for the soil. Now we know that the soil is responsible for growth.
That's right.
And if it has to stay moist, so that means that the Father, as we talked about earlier, has to stay filled with the Word of God and be able to have the nutrients, so that when we fall in, ladies,
that's right,
we become fruitful and we become stable. Because I've seen it, when women are begrudging their pregnancies and when they don't want to be home and they want to just go away from the home, because you can't. Your home is if the home is a replica of the seed, because you create the environment, you cultivate, and then we bring forth the fruit of the environment. And we make it beautiful too, but we bring out the fruit of it and we make it beautiful. But everything starts with the soil.
That's right.
And when a house is disturbed, sometimes we look at the behaviors, which are the fruits, and we don't go back to the soil.
Right, that's right.
Because we don't go back to the source. Okay, the Father is supposed to be the one that allows us to have. It doesn't have to be a mansion. It doesn't have to be a 6'5", 4-bedroom. It could be a 1-bedroom bachelor almost looking pad. But if the soil is right, then the environment will cultivate happiness. It will cultivate godliness, and the mother is the first recipient of the Father impact.
That's right.
In the home.
That's right. So every husband, you are a potential. You are a father figure. When you get married, you become that father, the source, sustainer, the teacher, the cultivator, the protector. And you create everything for her that you give an opportunity for growth in that house. You create an opportunity for prosperity in that house. Even a father in the book of Proverbs, we talk about the book of Proverbs, that the woman, we talk about the virtuous woman, that she goes into the marketplace and she's able to do business deals and certain things. But yet she wasn't alone.
Right.
Because if she was a virtuous woman, she's not alone, because in that culture, she was able to do those things because her home was solid.
Right. And I did want to touch on that. And I think I can look back on that as well. Not to say that, I'm tooting my own horn as a virtuous woman, but I've been able to be productive and effective, godly effective, because I didn't spend my entire formative years having to take care of you or having to be your soil.
Right.
Okay. So to speak. Right. And even though the virtuous woman made her husband look good, he had to create the soil first for her to help him to look good.
That's right.
Because this proverb always also talks about a bad woman is a horrible thing to have. An unhappy woman.
Reproach to her husband.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's like that. It's better to live on the rooftop than in the house with a contentious woman. So there's so many things, but it happens first that the soil has to be right. And I do attribute a lot of my, like I stated, of my effectiveness to the fact that I didn't have to spend my time getting the soil right. Soil. I can just insert myself and know that I'm stable because you're stable for me. Right. And then as a woman, I got to go to school, get my degree, become a professional, but I did it in concert with our abilities.
Right.
I didn't just say, I'm tired of being in the house, all these kids, you holding me back. I got a vision. I'm called. I'm going out to be who God called me. I'm going to live my purpose on purpose.
I'm going to tell you.
In spite of you, honey.
I'm going to tell you a story. At the time, just what she's talking about represent, just to give you an example. At the time when she was getting her bachelor's degree and she was going for psychology, she decided, going full bore, taking full classes. She wanted to get this thing done. She was focused. She was on point, and she was going full committed. My son was like 1 or 2, and I used to work graveyard, and she'd have to go to school during the day. When I came back from working 12 12-hour shifts, getting off about 5:45. I would come home, and at the time we get the kids ready because we had 6 kids, and my last one, Emmanuel, he was young, little guy. We get everybody ready, and we get them off to school, and then she would have to get ready to go to school, and she would for a few hours. But I felt I was so committed because she was committed, and I was working. I wanted her to help her to complete her goal. I was really, because I understood that it wasn't going to be forever. And so in doing that, I had to watch Emmanuel. And what we do, we make a nice big playpen. This is coming off Graveyard, y'all. And I make a playpen, and we would eat the first. I still got it down. I get him up. We eat cereal together, and after we eat cereal together, we would watch SpongeBob, Franklin, and Little Bear, and we'd watch that, and we'd take a little nap. I try to get a little bit of sleep. We take a little nap together, and then by the time it's for us to get up, she's on her way home. She's about home, and then it's time to go get the kids, and I can go get some sleep and go to bed. But I was willing to create an environment for her to be successful. When she had to write her paper, I was responsible for making sure all the kids are in a certain place, or I'd watch the kids, and we go out and play or do whatever if she had something serious that needs to be done. And so I tried to create an environment conducive for her success, and for you to be in that state. That even happened when you were in the master's program, to create an environment for you to be successful. But it takes a father to do that.
Right. And I think that it's so important to understand the virtuous woman had that soil. And everyone prospered because of he wasn't jealous of her.
Right.
He created an environment for her to utilize the gifts that God gave her. Now, the gift that God gave her were for the blessing of the house. It wasn't just a separate mission.
Not a separate mission. That's right.
It is.
That's right.
It is to bless the house. Now, I know that I do work. I'm a professional, and the onus is not on me to pay the bills, but I do, like certain things I want to do. Like I want to do things for him that's special to show him how much I appreciate him. And then I do, of course, whatever else he needs me to do. But it's not my responsibility, because if it's my responsibility, then I'm going to hate it.
Right.
And then I'm going to throw it like Moses' wife.
Right.
And that's where sometimes you have to be clear about that. But it's such a beautiful story that when everything is in order, she was able to take care of her children.
Right.
She was able to have a job where she sold and made things with her hands.
Right.
But it didn't disrupt. And it all started with him organizing it, because sometimes husbands can prostitute their wives in a sense, where they can put them out there to make money, and they don't care if the wife is tired. They don't care if the wife is compromising. They don't care if the kids are without their mother. They just want to be able to go on vacation. They just want to be able to have that car. They just want to be able to have that extra income and look like the Joneses, and little Johnny and little Sue are being lost by the wayside. And so a good father, who is the soil, is concerned about the fruit of the children.
That's right.
Is she able to take care of the babies? Is this endeavor, this job, this opportunity going to stop her from doing what God called us to do, is be fruitful and multiply? And I think you've always made that the standard, where if I can't be a mom, that's our inclination. I've had jobs before I went to school, and I've came off of almost every job because
that's what I wanted.
Yeah, and because we couldn't find reliable care.
These
our
children,
first priority.
Our children are our diamonds.
First priority.
And that is my first priority.
And we were poor. Can I say this?
Go ahead.
Can I say this? Yeah. And we sacrificed. I was satisfied with the soil that we were in for that season. Some seasons are just, you have a certain particular area, and we were still fruitful. We didn't have material things, but because you were at peace. You didn't blame me. Like, I could be further along. I got all these kids. I have a good job. I could be further along. All my friends are going on trips. All my friends have new cars, and they're teasing me about my buckets. You didn't bring that nastiness home, and then now my soil's messed up. And if his soil's messed up, I'm the tree. I'm messed up, and now my kid's gonna be messed up.
That's right.
So that's beautiful. How do you do that? Because that's what we're faced with. How do you remain a cultivator and keep the right soil,
Have to.
when you can have what everybody else is having, during that time, 2 incomes, and it was just you carrying that
The
load.
thing that the 2 words that I have thought to create that I'm looking at, and I had some time to think about it, is to create stability and consistency. Stability. I that was my desire, that I did not want my children. I wanted my children to have stability and consistency. And if I wasn't stable, if I wasn't consistent, they would feel it. You would feel it.
Right. I'd feel it first.
You'd feel it first.
And I'd give
But
it to
if
them.
if I created it, it doesn't matter. We moved a couple of times. We bought our house, and we've lived in houses, and we have we had people living in and out with us. But I've always thought to create, and it might have been just ingrained in me, to create stability and consistency. Stability and consistency is a hallmark, because you cannot bear fruit without stability and consistency. You gotta the parable of the rock and the sand. It creates stability and consistency. That's when you look at the parable of the rock. When you build yourself on the sand, or you build on the rock. Well, when the floods come, the sand shifts and the houses. Well, it's not creating stability nor consistency. One, we can say it's consistent. It's going to move, but it doesn't create stability. So, but I always looked at try to create consistency and stability, and then understanding that this is my lot, and this is what I'm okay with this.
Right.
I had to settle that these are my children. This is my wife. This is my home.
Right.
And understanding that I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to provide for what God has given to me.
Right.
And I'm going to take personal responsibility, personal ownership. This belongs to me.